Live from London, it's Plank of the Week with Mike Graham.
Good evening and welcome to Plank of the Week. It is the one show that we get every single week, every Friday night, where we do all the judging. You don't have to do any at all. So you can sit back and relax and just watch the plankery that's been going on in the last 7 days. I'm delighted to say we've amassed another amazing panel. Jeremy Kyle is here, Chloe Dobbs is here, Russell Quirk is here, and Rafe Heydel-Mankoo is here as well. It's a star-studded panel and we've got some star-studded planks. Jeremy, you've got to kick off with our Angela Rayner. Angela Rayner.
I don't know if people know, right, but she spends a lot of time in Ethiopia.
She does.
As you know.
Yes. It's her favourite country.
There was an astonishing sort of bevy of pictures this week of our Ange in what looked like skin-tight white stretchy material in a boat.
There she is.
There it is.
In a dinghy.
In a dinghy, right, with like a tattoo saying, I'm not going to tell you what it says.
What does the tattoo say?
It's a button.
Down there, joking.
No.
A vape, a bottle of Lambrusco.
Yeah.
This is her. You know, most people are saying, my God, has she arrived? Is she coming in on a boat? Because look at, there we are. She's got one of those, you know those coats that people that swim in the sea wear?
It's a dry robe.
Yeah. She looks very elegant, doesn't she?
She does.
Yeah.
It's camouflage and pink. But what's really interesting is the story came out that our Ange, who I think probably the darling of the trade unions and the darling of the left, has really sold her soul to the corporate devil, because we've got the house in Ashton-under-Lyme, the constituent. We've got a nice, massive apartment on the Admiralty Arch.
Very nice.
And now she spent 800 grand on a new flat in Hove, right? This is Hove, quite expensive. We don't know how she got the mortgage. We don't know who was the weedy ginger bloke with the no abs at all, who was
the bloke who was paddling
thing.
madly.
Yeah, was it the ex-MP? Probably not.
I'm not sure.
But the most extraordinary thing is the darling of the left, the woman who called Tory scum, the woman who's purporting to say, and I quote, the problem with Tories was they move out of London, they buy second homes, and the poor locals can't bloody live. That's a terrible impression. Has 3 homes, and she was named by the legend that is Mike Graham, brilliantly, by the way, as the minister for housing herself this week, because
it's true.
Bugger off everybody extraordinarily
And all at the same time, as the Labour government are about to impose penalties, further penalties on people that have second and third homes.
Right. And the other thing that she's done is she's claiming that her main home is the one in Manchester, right? Because she doesn't want to pay the extra council tax on the one down in London, because if that's her second home, then it's paid for by the taxpayer. So she gets the council tax, which would be punitive because it's a second home, paid for by the taxpayer, and now she's paying council tax on the third home, which is in Hove.
You just get the feeling, right, that all of them in the end, you think they're all the same, because I think we were all dead bored and at the end of our tether with the Tories, noses in the trough, and it's appalling. What a look! What a terrible look. Definitely Plank of the Week. Until our Ange, not from Ethiopia at all.
No, we'll have a look at that in a minute. But have a look at this. Somebody made a meme out of the dinghy picture.
Nothing beats a Jet2 holiday. And right now, you can save £50 per person. That's £200 off for a family of 4.
Well, I've got to say, it would be quite the deterrent, wouldn't it? If you were coming over on a boat
and you saw that,
from Syria or Afghanistan, and you saw Angela Rayner there in a pink wetsuit or whatever she's wearing in a dinghy, you'd probably turn around and go back.
Some people have said that she's obviously having a laugh here, because, the idea of her in a dinghy in the English Channel, you're thinking she couldn't have done
ironic.
He couldn't have done that by accident, surely to God. And she obviously doesn't give a stuff about anybody.
Do you think it was actually supposed to be quite clever? She can't be that intelligent.
I think she was
just showing how
she's
in touch
trolling
she
us.
is with the
I think she's just trolling us, going,
I'm going to be trolling Yvette Cooper and Keir Starmer.
Yeah, maybe
to be leader.
Yeah, that's possible too.
Chloe Dobbs, so I don't want to interrupt you this week because I know your fans watching. What would you like to say?
I would like to say that what she got her Labour sources to do the following day, going out to the press to defend her, was hilarious. So her defences, or her Labour sources say her defences, A, she needs this 3-bedroom swanky pad by the sea as a base while she's living in London. Not that she'd like it, she needs it. And apparently it's all OK because she's going to pay her council tax on it.
Yes, apparently that's fine. But since she already has a place in London, why does she need a base nowhere near London to be in London?
She's now got 10 bedrooms in total because she's got 4 in her constituency home.
1 for each boyfriend.
3 in London and 3 in this new swanky pad. So she's got 10 bedrooms. Surely she's going to give them out to all the asylum
seekers. Don't interrupt Chloe.
How about this for a theory, right? Because this was put to me just a couple of days ago, and I haven't said it anywhere else yet. The belief is, inside sort of Labour circles, that she will lose her seat at the next election, right? So what if she moved her seat to Hove, which is a pretty safe Labour seat? And then, suddenly, she lives there, she's got a new seat, she doesn't lose her MP status.
That's not a bad theory.
And that's quite, I think that's quite a good theory.
I sort of used to think, fair play, and this is me being at my most serious, you know, working class woman, single mum at 16, to end up as the Deputy Prime Minister of this country says an awful lot, I think.
Yeah.
What a bleeding joke. What a hypocritical, Mickey-taking laugh that is.
Yeah. Well, as it stands,
in the Channel.
Yeah, as it stands, that flat's going to be unoccupied for half the year, right?
Absolutely.
We hear from Labour all the time about the problem with our coastal communities, local shops closing, pubs closing because no one's living in these places. You remember John Prescott was called Two Jags Prescott.
Yeah.
I now heard she's been called Three Pads Rayner.
Three Pads Rayner.
Why doesn't she have some migrants living in her tent?
We could try that. We could try that. Now, we can't finish up with Angela Rayner without looking at her trip to Ethiopia. Have a look.
It's incredibly important that the UK continues to work with Ethiopia because of our ties, and that we can do so much good together to improve the standards of living for both people here in the UK and Ethiopia.
Chloe Dobbs, over to you.
We have got Notting Hill Carnival.
The Notting Hill Carnival.
Yes.
Notting Hell
A
Carnival.
festival.
Notting Hill Carnival.
Notting Hill.
Festival of Britishness.
So apparently it's been a huge success this year
Oh, yeah.
because there were only 2 stabbings this year rather than 8 stabbings, and there were only 18 sexual offences of the
Oh, that's all right,
423 people arrested.
This is on Children's Day, by the way.
Looks like a
bit of a fight
really
going on in the street.
amazing, vibrant day of multiculturalism, doesn't it? And also the other thing they did, which I thought was hilarious, is they had a lady from the police do a video where she was saying, "Oh, it's all fine because we're going to have a rape support tent, a sexual assault support tent.
Yeah.
So if you get raped, it's okay
it's
because
okay.
you
Just
can
go to the tent.
you can
Just go to
come
the
to the
tent.
tent and we'll give you a kiss and a cuddle,
Right.
and it
We'll
will
talk
all be
about
okay."
tent of shame.
So
I think
Notting
we've got
Hill
that.
Carnival,
Let's have a look.
fine.
This is one of the leaders of the Metropolitan Police.
Women and girls who might feel sort of vulnerable in Carnival, unfortunately there are incidents of sexual assaults, can go and be supported in those areas.
Yes. I mean, can you imagine any other kind of event that happens every single year, paid for by the public purse? It costs 12 million to police it, just for the police, right?
That would be allowed to continue.
But you'd be allowed to have a rape crisis centre.
Well, you
in the
know
middle
the
of it.
girl that was just walking on the beach in Dorset when that migrant put his hands down the back of her trousers, but he's been allowed to stay here because of his upbringing. It was a mere aberration. Is there a crisis centre or a tent to look after that girl who's traumatised for the rest of her life? What a load of old crap.
No.
But it's two-tier policing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because, Notting Hill Carnival is, it's a sacred festival in the Church of Diversity, which is our new state of religion. It's a holy weekend, but it is the most dangerous event in Britain, probably in the whole of Europe.
Well, I mean,
and it wouldn't stand if it was a St George's Day parade.
You had an interesting statistic when.
Well, I looked into similar large events. So, for example, the Platinum Jubilee, similar number of people over a similar weekend.
Yeah.
Notting Hill Carnival, 35 times more dangerous and more violent.
Well, there were no rapes.
There were, funnily enough, no rapes in the Mall.
Weird,
there were only 10 arrests during the Platinum Jubilee.
Isn't it strange? And wasn't there a certain BBC headline as well that was quite hilarious?
Yeah, well, the BBC and Sky covered it all weekend, right? Didn't mention any of the arrests at all.
No, but the first headline I saw, it was the Times, sorry, not the BBC. The Times said only 140 arrests in an otherwise peaceful day.
Right.
Oh, my goodness.
But the total number of arrests was more above
500 plus,
523.
which is more than last year.
It's 423 this year.
No, it was 523 because they added more on towards the end, because that's the other thing. When you hear about the first number, that's only up to 8 o'clock at night on a Monday. And after 8 o'clock at night on a Monday is when it really kicks off.
But the good thing is only 40 police were assaulted. Only 40.
Only 40.
That's a result, isn't it?
Yeah.
There were more police were assaulted at Notting Hill Carnival than in the Southport protests.
Yeah.
But look how quick everyone was to condemn the protest. Well, they always downplay Notting Hill, don't they?
Yeah. And Mike, you caused quite a storm by saying it's not British.
I did,
didn't you?
yeah. I went on Samara's show last Friday and I said, let's face it, it's not a British event. And I got called a racist. I got called, all sorts of names by the leftists who said, what's wrong with Mike Graham? Why can't he see this as a British festival? It's been going since 1960, something or other. Yeah, but it's not. It celebrates Caribbean culture. There's nothing wrong with celebrating Caribbean culture, but don't pretend that it's British, because it isn't.
No.
Yeah,
simple.
I don't know why they don't just move it to Hyde Park and do it as a proper festival. But if you go to any music festival, you have proper security, proper bag searches and everything. You can't bring a knife in, you can't
and
bring
nobody
a load of
complains
drugs
about being
in unless you're very
victimised,
sneaky.
really, do they?
No.
And one of the things, we saw those two women fighting. There was another situation where there was another youngish woman. They pixelated out her face, but she wasn't wearing very many clothes. And she was arrested for chucking a bottle at the police. So I mean, I think, and you see, I saw on Saturday an awful lot of youngish women. And they weren't all by any means of Caribbean descent. There were a lot of white girls going. And everybody goes to this thing in London because it's become this... I don't understand. I mean, I had a conversation with somebody about my own kids who wanted to go. And I was like, I don't think it's a good idea.
It's just, it's a music festival with free entry to them. That's probably why they want to go.
That's what they think.
You don't have to pay the big fee to get to Glastonbury.
It's a crime fest. And the measure also is that all the shopkeepers that have to go to the trouble of boarding up their shop.
Well, I have a friend,
2 or 3 days.
I've got a friend who lives there, and he went away for the weekend. He says, this is what we do every weekend, and they board up their house.
Yeah.
In Florida, they do it for hurricanes. But that's not, in London, they do it for Notting Hill. Yeah, both devastating.
That's not a festival of anything. That's not a celebration. No, that's criminality.
It's a nightmare. Absolute nightmare.
Talking of which,
Russell, over to you with Greater Manchester Police.
Yeah, criminality or not, I guess, as the case may be. Greater Manchester Police. I'm sure you've got this to show. This is absolutely hilarious. So we've seen over the last few weeks this wonderful display across Britain of all of these flags going up on lampposts and so on. The St George's Cross and the Union flag. It's not the Union Jack, by the way. It's the Union flag. And I think it's wonderful. It's not causing any harm. Of course, some people are offended by it, those on the left that think it's racist and bigoted and so on. But here we have a group of patriotic individuals putting up the Union flag on a lamppost with 7 Greater Manchester Police trying to stop him.
And failing.
Why do they fail? Why do they fail?
Because they just gave up in the end. Because the guys...
They're holding the ladder in the end. They realise they're on a hiding to nothing. I guess because there's no offence in putting a flag.
I genuinely don't understand how the Chief Constable of Police Organisation, Manchester Met Police, whatever, how do they honestly believe people are going to think that the police are sent to stop you hanging your national flag when girls are being attacked and things are happening and they do bugger? I don't understand that.
See, look, there he gets to the top of the ladder and the police just have to stand there holding the ladder.
They go in the end.
And then by the time he comes back down, they've gone. Yeah, because the other thing, I mean, I've seen, there's loads of footage like this over the course of the past sort of 7 days. And there was one where a guy had a flag and a police officer comes up to him because he's outside a migrant hotel. And the police officer tells him that he has to leave the area. And the guy's going, why?
Inciting violence.
He said, and so the guy actually goes, no, it's not because he's inciting violence, causing distress, which is even worse. To the migrants, apparently.
Causing distress. I don't want to walk off and headbutt the wall, because the other week I did that and made all the papers.
Well, we're going to talk about that later. But listen, so this guy who had the flag actually says to the policeman, he goes, so what you're telling me is people in there who have come here illegally and who have broken the law to come into this country have complained about me holding a British flag, which is entirely legal, and I'm the one that has to leave the area.
Yep. What did the policeman say?
And the policeman said, well, because you're causing distress.
Yeah, but then they revert to that, I'm just doing my job.
I'm just doing my job.
I'm just following orders.
Yeah, it is a bit. It is a bit.
Yeah. But, I mean, you never have that many police turn up if your house gets burgled. They just say, oh, sorry, we haven't got the resources. Go away.
But nobody turns up if your house.
No, they don't. But you know, the other thing that's happening, of course, you've got these local councils that are really kind of up against it in terms of budget. Yeah. The likes of Birmingham, which I'll remind you is a bankrupt council,
with
spending now and not picking up the rubbish bins and haven't picked up the bins for months and months and months. They're spending tens of thousands of pounds sending workers out on double pay, by the way, to take the flags down.
So people are now painting St George's crosses on their bin bags.
Double pay, Jeremy.
There's been some great memes.
There's a wall there. There's a wall there.
There's some great memes.
So don't take the rubbish.
My favourite one, right? My favourite one was the guy put a fridge outside his front door and painted the St George's cross on it to see if they come and take it away.
I like what you said last week about potholes. Just paint every pothole white and red.
There was a white sofa as well with a red cross through it. That got taken away.
But in what world has an England flag or a Union flag suddenly become, toxic?
And at the same time...
Because I've also seen, there's also been loads and loads of images of crazed, mostly middle-aged women tearing the flags down and jumping on them.
Saw that, Karens, what we call them.
Harridans.
But at the same time,
Harridans,
at the same time, Palestinian flags are allowed
by
the likes of Birmingham Council and so on.
And
apparently they're not unsafe.
Do you think that will continue to be allowed? Because I think the British people will just, in the end, like so much, are just going to go, not having that
No.
anymore.
Well, that's
Well, they're not. Well,
that's
what these people are doing is the flags get taken down and they go out every single night and they put them back up over and over and over again. People aren't giving up.
Yeah, and they're all over the motorways, on the bridges and everything like that. They're absolutely everywhere.
It's the English have had enough, you know, because they've seen for years, you know, the Welsh and the Scots fly their flag. It's called progressive nationalism. English fly their flag. It's racist.
Yeah.
And I think that's not working any longer. The English people are
Do we
rising
also
up.
think it's about time that, whether it be the Cross of St George or the Union flag, should be mandated to be outside of every civic building?
Yeah.
It should be
Works in
the
America.
law. It should be the law.
Every school.
Well, if you walk down a street in America, it's completely normal that almost every single house has an American flag hanging off.
My
and people
sister,
don't say that's
my
racist.
sister, whose house I'm going to
but
in a couple of days' time, she's got one outside. You know? Yeah.
it's completely normal there. It doesn't make you far right, but for some reason here we've decided that you're some sort of racist bigot.
Apologist
if you
rubbish.
like your own country.
And imagine
it's crazy.
also all the flags that we've had to put up with over the last several years. You know, the LGBTQI plus blah
Which keeps
whatever.
getting crazier and crazier, that flag.
I've seen a guy flying an NHS flag. Outside is a place
NHS
flag.
You can get
with
an NHS
on it.
you can get an
I used to
NHS
drive past
pride
his
flag.
house down in Sussex. I thought one day I'll just drive in and go, is this a hospital? You know, I've got ingrown toenails. You mind sorting it for me?
And when the NHS are on strike, which is frequently, you can fly at half mile.
Very, very good. And by the way, the hair transplant's looking better by the week.
I've had it cut today, and I have to say to them, when I have it
It's
cut,
looking
be
less
very,
like a fat.
Be very careful.
Looks good.
No, it looks
Jeremy,
very
he's
nice.
got a tight t-shirt
Did you say there was an NHS pride flag? Is that what you said?
Yeah, there's an NHS Pride flag. You know, because during Pride Month, every organisation changes their logo and puts the Pride flag behind it. So there's an NHS one. With
Did we change
all
the plank
colours
of the week?
behind
Call it Pride of the Week?
We haven't got we haven't got plank for that, and he says plank of the week. We can't change it.
I think you can get a badge to put on your blazer with the NHS Pride flag.
Would you like one?
I'll get you one for Christmas, Mike.
No, definitely not. Let's just chuck it somewhere. Rafe, over to you. Edinburgh City Council.
Yes, from the ridiculous to the even more ridiculous. So, you know, in Westminster, people seem to understand now you need to make Britain less attractive to migrants, but that memo clearly hasn't arrived at Edinburgh City Council, who are now giving freebies to migrants by the bucket load, or by the boat load, I should say. It includes free discounted bouncy castle rides. Because, you know, in Sudan and Syria, bouncy castles are all the rage.
Sorry, we've gone back to the Angela Rayner
there you go.
Free inflatable pool parties. They're also having free swimming lessons. Now, you would have thought free swimming lessons would have been useful in France before they sent over the English Channel in their boats.
Also, who else uses bouncy castles? Children, right?
But
so
if
put
I
some
was,
migrants in there with them. That's a good idea.
If I was a parent, I wouldn't be very happy knowing that there's free swimming lessons given to migrants at the local swimming baths.
No.
But also,
they have to swim in bikinis.
They're also being given boxing classes, they're being given martial arts classes and gym lessons. Now, we've imported a standing army of young men of fighting age. I don't think teaching them hand-to-hand combat skills is necessarily the best approach to go down.
My daughter is at Edinburgh University, right?
Oh, my God.
I mean, how mad is that? I mean, that's a council doing that.
Yeah. Edinburgh
Bouncy
City
castle
Council,
lessons to migrants.
Yes.
Isn't it true now?
Why?
We have
I'll tell you why.
70%
They
off.
give them all of this entertainment because they think they need to keep all the guys occupied. Because if they don't, they'll be bored and they'll go and rob places and rape people.
Yeah.
That's how they justify
So
it.
a porn movie then, not a bouncy castle.
Here's an idea.
Here's an idea.
Put them in
They
a room.
have to all verify their ID.
Here's an
No,
idea.
you have to verify your ID for that, and they don't have ID.
Put them in a room and lock the door. That'll save them from going out and robbing and raping anybody, won't it? You know,
That's
don't let them out.
very unfair to them.
Right.
But here's a hideous thought. I think now we have more young men of fighting age that are illegal migrants here than the total population of the UK armed forces.
I can't do this.
Just think about that for a second. So if you don't think it's an invasion, I'm afraid, look, it is.
Oh, you'll upset people by saying invasion.
It is an invasion, and they've already surpassed the total population of our armed forces.
Yeah,
well, the number of people on the terror watch list is half the size of our standing army as well.
Crikey. Speaking of which, actually, there was a watch list at Notting Hill, 16,500 people that they had on facial recognition that they were worried about who might turn up. 16,500.
But we're not doing anything about it because that would be divisive.
These are people walking the streets every day, right?
But if you stab somebody or attack a police officer, that's all right.
Pings go off. I mean, the police, what do they do? Just go, I can't cope with that.
Yeah, can't cope with that. Just go home. Yeah, exactly.
Now, Hill Carnival.
you might not have seen this clip. This is from Ireland. A guy who was outed as a fake asylum seeker.
What brought you to Ireland?
Yeah, we are asylum seekers.
Okay, so you're fleeing war.
Excuse me?
Are you fleeing war?
Yeah, persecution.
Prosecution?
Yeah,
Where?
Nigeria.
There's war in Nigeria?
No, it's a sexuality thing.
Sexuality?
Yeah.
Sorry, I don't understand.
Where I come from, if you are bisexual or homosexual, you get killed. So
You're gay?
Yeah, you have to take off, yes.
You're happy in Ireland?
This is airing.
And have you got family at home?
Oh, yes, I do.
So what have you got at home?
And my wife and 2 kids, 2 sons.
Your wife and 2 sons?
Yeah, the mighty Hercules and the mighty Spartacus.
But you just said you were gay.
Oops. I mean, you just have... It's get ridiculous.
And he was
though,
only
isn't it?
11. Could you bear that in mind?
That's right. Yeah. He's probably enrolled in the local primary school.
Oh,
you know, he'll be enrolled in the local primary school.
In between Bouncy Castle.
There should be a gay test if you're going to do that. You have to pass this test and demonstrate that you're truly committed to the cause.
I've said this in the past. Yeah, show us you care, or whatever it is that you do. Yeah.
Well, I mean, there was...
There's any number of ways you could prove it.
There was the guy who was living in Dubai and then came over, and he's doing this graphic design business work from home in the hotel, and he's got on his desk in the hotel all these Selfridges bags, and he's got all of this shopping, so he got loads of cash. And he was saying, I'm gay, so you can claim asylum. But then someone from the Daily Mail spoke to him, and he's like, yeah, of course I was lying. I'm not gay.
He's got a wife and kids in Dubai. He's got a wife and kids in Dubai.
Yeah, the wife's got something in
Russell's right, you know,
it's almost
Miami
like
Vice lookalike over there with the stubble.
Yeah, it's almost like the migrants are gaming the system or something, isn't it?
Yeah, I know.
It's a midlife crisis.
Yeah, I'm on my 3rd.
Yeah. He's got about 8 Porsches. Don't worry about it. Not just one. Anyway, listen, that's the first 4 for the start of the show. And coming up next, we're going to be doing a bit on reform. Nigel Farage has been in the news this week. And also, I think there's something to do with sex toys as well. That's what it says here. This is Plank of the Week.
Live from London, it's Plank of the Week with Mike Graham.
Welcome back to Plank of the Week. Just before we carry on with the rest of the show, we've got a little bit of an announcement to make. Myself and Jeremy Kyle, we announced it this week a couple of days ago before you've seen this. But today, this very day, Friday, the tickets for our live show go on sale.
Mike Graham and Jeremy Kyle's Word of Common Sense.
Yes.
One night only, unless you like it, we'll do more or anything for a laugh. Saturday the 15th of November. So
It is.
tickets on sale now. Should be on the screen.
Yeah.
Is it on the screen right
It
now?
will be coming on the screen in a second.
Lovely.
Basically, we're on general sale from Ticketmaster from Friday at 10. So they went on sale at 10 a.m. this morning.
Absolutely. Saturday, November the 15th
And
in
of
London.
course, if you're a Labour MP, you get 1 ticket per house. So Ange can get 3.
She can. We'll see you there.
OK, now let's talk about Nigel Farage. Nigel Farage was very much in the news this week because, of course, he made the biggest speech probably of his life, where he set out his stall on migrants. We've just been talking about migrants, and he basically said it's time to pull the plug on the European Court of Human Rights, the European Convention of Human Rights. It's time to pull the plug in the United Nations. Time to step out on our own and stop kowtowing to international courts and actually do what the British people want. Let's have a look at what he had to say.
If you come to the UK illegally, you will be detained and deported and never, ever allowed to stay, period.
And he's standing there, of course, in front of a massive flag. Nobody tried to take it down.
The biggest flag in Britain, apparently.
Biggest flag in Britain. But,
They must have had strict security to make sure it didn't get taken down.
And they need to, because, of course, there are lots of lefties and all kinds of idiots who would try and do Nigel Farage down. One of those lefty idiots was John McDonnell, the man who used to be Jeremy Corbyn's henchman. He was the Shadow Chancellor when
Wasn't
Jeremy
he a friend of the IRA as well?
Well, we'll get to that in a second. But here's what he said. Welcome to England under reform, where children are locked up for asking to live in safety. This isn't the England decent people raise the flag or sing the anthem for. The question is whether people will wake up to the pit our country is being dragged into. And I mean, I'm sorry, Mr. McDonnell, but I mean, first of all, he doesn't seem to worry about the children who live in this country who are being raped and sexually assaulted by these scumbags.
And also, we always talk about rape and sexual assault. There are millions of families north of the bubble of the M25 that most of the Labour government haven't been beyond who are really struggling to pay their bills and make ends meet and feed their kids. And when people tell me that, right, those people that are coming in illegally don't even bring their bloody children with them. They leave them in the war-torn country, apparently. You wouldn't do that. France is not war-torn. The thing about it is, Mikey, and people get really uppity, the left, when I say this, priorities. I'm sorry to tell you, the indigenous population, we cannot afford it. Fact.
No.
John McDonnell, friend of the IRA, man who talks about raising the flag. I thought he was with Corbyn. They didn't like the flag.
They don't like the flag. Also, the bottom line is that ordinary people in this country have had enough. They want to be spoken to like Nigel Farage has spoken to them. The Tories had not much of an answer. The Tories basically said, they've stolen all of our ideas. And you're going, oh, really? Well, why didn't you do anything for the last 6 years about it?
That's true.
And then the Labour government said, it's all a fantasy. They can't afford to do it. And they tried to sort of say...
They didn't slag off the... They didn't actually say, we don't think it should try and be done. They just don't have a... I thought...
They don't have a Scooby what to do because, Lord Blunkett, David Blunkett, former Home Secretary under Tony Blair, has actually said the same thing. We need to suspend our membership of the ECHR.
Didn't Jack Straw say on Wednesday?
And so all the sort of, what you might call centre sort of left people are in agreement with reform. You know, everybody knows that this is the biggest problem facing the country.
I thought it was probably the most prime ministerial thing we've seen for a long time. Whether you agree with Nigel Farage or not, what he manages to do is actually read the room, pick up on the vibe of what people in this country are thinking, and doesn't give a toss. And I think that's incredibly brave. That's all I think.
And just going back to John McDonnell and some of his antecedents, right? You know, he's always said, you know, I never supported violence in Northern Ireland, but he has in his office basically a plaque dedicated to Bobby Sands. Right. And he has another plaque in which he says he was given it by Jerry Kelly, who was an IRA terrorist who was given 2 life sentences for his involvement in the Whitehall bombings of 1973.
How does he still get elected? Do the people of Hayes and Harlington not, or wherever it is, do they not understand what he is?
He must have a very good electoral sort of organised group of people who get the vote out, I guess. The plaque includes a tribute to Bobby Sands, leader of the hunger strike, and a guy called Francis Hughes who murdered a British soldier and was sentenced to 83 years in prison. But he doesn't support the violence.
No, of course he doesn't, no.
A plaque in his office in support of the IRA, and he talks about safety of children who used to get blown up by the IRA.
I think it's really interesting because in time, whatever the left say, the British people will decide. And some will say Farage can't do it. We had a lot of that this week. My thought is at least he says he's going to have a go. Isn't that the deal?
Yeah, I mean, he may not manage to deport all of the people he's saying he's going to deport, and they may not do it as quick as they hope because you're going to have all this pushback from the so-called blob. But he's going to get a lot closer to it than Keir Starmer or the Tories ever will.
This blob thing really interests me, though, because I asked Sarah Poachin this. I know you did as well. I asked Zia Youssef as well. It's easy for people to say you might not be able to do it, and they will come out with the line, it's the will of the people. I think the British people's importance is becoming stronger and stronger every day. And if Farage does win with the majority, there are a lot of people thinking, I don't think the British people will let this continue like this. I really don't.
Well, we can't go on the way we are.
The current polls say that Reform will win, Nigel Farage will be Prime Minister, and there will be 350 Reform seats. I know we're a long, long way away, but if that does happen, look, I don't see why this isn't doable as a plan, because what Farage set out this week was not just the fact that all of these people are going to be deported, but where they're going to be deported to, if those countries say no, what the plan B is, the fact there's going to be 5 flights.
Well, the Taliban have already signed up to it.
I'm on air. By 10 to 7, the Taliban have gone, we'll work with Nigel Farage. Obviously, we had to make the point, but I don't know what would happen to the people that go back there. But the truth of the matter is, it worked with Trump. Somebody's got the balls to stand up and say we're going to do it.
This isn't about the operational likelihood of it actually happening in terms of all those people being deported. It's about the deterrent. So now we then become, by way of that disincentive, a country that falls off the migrant gangs and the migrants' radar. Simple as that.
Well, if you're an Afghan who's run away from the Taliban and you're sitting in a camp in Calais, and you think if you come to Britain, there's a chance you might get sent back to Afghanistan, you ain't coming.
Exactly.
Your tent in Calais is looking really nice now.
But there's been so much pearl clutching and hand-wringing by the BBC and politicians about Afghanistan, as if this idea is so unconscionable. The EU have signed a treaty with Afghanistan to do precisely this. So it already exists. The beloved EU of the left, I mean, it already exists. And I actually think this is doable because I'm fully expecting over the course of the next year or so, Reform to come out with its plan to get rid of the Supreme Court and to deal with the civil service and to deal with the Home Office. So actually, if you actually do fundamentally reform the blob, repeal all of Tony Blair's legislation, you can actually
The other criticism was cost. So Nigel Farage has been very clear this is going to cost £10 billion. But of course, it saves more than that over the next 5 years.
Which is less than they gave rises to their union mates.
Because we won't be spending money, £8 billion a year, by the way, on migrant accommodation or NHS treatment or the 49
speaking of the BBC, did you see that piece that they wrote this week about how they went inside a migrant hotel, but unlike the citizen journalists who show you all the great food that they get and the exercise room and the televisions and all the PlayStations. Oh, no, they interviewed this guy who was called John. And they said, not his real name,
Really?
from Tanzania. Right? And,
Tanzania?
Yeah, and he said, apparently, that he was frightened to go outside. Despite the fact that he was fleeing, persecution and war.
But Tanzania is a place where
Sorry,
people
is
go on
it
holiday.
Tanzania or Southall? Where was he scared to go outside?
No, he was scared to go outside his migrant hotel because of all the women out there who were protesting. The pink,
all the epping mums.
Yeah, all the
really
mums
scary.
and the kids. And he said, I can't go outside. We're all very nervous.
He's got PTSD
they might tell him that he's not allowed to sexually assault kids. What a shame.
I know.
Evil mothers.
That would really trigger anxiety.
So hang on, now he's got anxiety.
Exactly.
He can now qualify for disability. He gets a free BMW.
You'll get a free BMW. Yeah, you see him driving out, it'll be fine. Now, one thing that the Reform are also really good at is they've got absolutely head and shoulders above everybody else on their social media platforms. And this is something that Nigel Farage and Reform put out actually this week.
Wrote the plan with a rod and pint. 2029 now looks so right. Selector.
And apparently Number 10 have put together a whole task force to try and figure out why Nigel Farage is so popular. You don't need a whole task force. I can tell you that's why.
Can you imagine Starmer in that video?
Well, you've seen the Starmer videos that come out. It's still my favourite from last week when he went to the kids' library and he sat down with the little kid who was playing the pretend organ, and he played a song and it was row, row, row your boat gently down the street. Absolutely brilliant.
It doesn't work.
Row your boat gently across the channel.
Yes, exactly.
But at least he didn't do what Rishi Sunak did when he went to a school and announced to them, I just love Coke.
Yes,
remember that?
Brilliant. The other great one he
and
did...
then he was like, sorry, I meant Coca-Cola.
I meant Coca-Cola. The other great one was when he went to help out the soup kitchen and this guy turns up with his cup and he goes, oh, what do you do for work? He's like, I'm homeless.
I'm homeless. That's why you're here. But isn't the best video, Stormer, the one where he's hitting that punch bag like this?
No, that is...
The best one is the countdown to the Christmas tree.
Yeah, 5. Yeah, absolutely. Jeremy, you've got a female student. It says here ULC. I presume it means
UCL. So we've already talked about Edinburgh, which is included in this. We'll know and remember that the Supreme Court said that biological males could not share toilets with females, which everybody with a brain cell in this country went, well, that makes sense, apart from anybody who made a fortune. My chair went down. Anybody who made a fortune out of Harry Potter.
Yeah.
Did you see the producer-director of Harry Potter who made millions out of J.K. Rowling slagging her off these weeks?
Really?
Just have a suggestion. Give your money back.
Yeah.
That might be a good idea.
Exactly.
Anyway, UCL has said we're not doing this. All these universities, we've got Edinburgh, Southampton, Bath and Nottingham. Female students will share toilets and changing rooms with biological males as universities ignore the legal warning. Women at the University College London who want to remain anonymous for fear of being vilified by colleagues have revealed the institution has continued to allow trans women to use female facilities.
That's ridiculous.
So the Supreme Court makes that judgment, right?
It's against the law, isn't it?
So when you consider that we have a government that will police the journalist at the Times for saying something on WhatsApp about his kid's teacher and 6 of them came round.
Or a man putting a flag up.
A man putting a flag up. But they are allowed to flout the Supreme Court. It is, as you say, it's just complete two-tier policing. And it's that sort of story, whatever your stance on that, and I've got a teenage daughter. I don't want my teenage daughter changing in a room where there's a man with a penis. Sorry, that's fact. I'm allowed to say that's a father. As those epping mothers are allowed to say. But apparently if you do that, you're either far right or unfair or you're not being respectful enough. It's they should be brought to task, those universities.
They should.
And the fear of all of these women who are having to remain anonymous, and I know what it's like at universities, if you put your head above the parapet, you will be attacked by the mob.
Right.
I love how their fear just doesn't matter whatsoever. It's only the fear of a few trans individuals that is important to these universities.
Who seems to spend an awful lot of time desperately trying to get inside women's toilets.
Why
do they want to do that?
And I say something I say a lot, and I'd love your take on this. All the women who quite rightly spend their lives campaigning about women's rights and women should be safe and we should, be very aware about women being stalked and being attacked. Where the hell are they for the young girls in toilets who would be subjected to men with penises in a dress changing? I never hear a word from them. I never hear a word about the women and the kids and the girls attacked in Epping. Nothing, because it's all about migrants and it's all about that two-tier rubbish. It's wrong.
And a huge number of students now are foreign students in all of these universities coming from very socially conservative backgrounds. So this is not going to end well because the parents are not going to be happy thinking that their children are going to be sharing bathrooms with men.
Hang on, a man walking into a female changing room and exposing his penis is already a sexual
It's an offence, isn't it?
Yes,
right?
it is.
It's indecent
But only in certain
exposure.
situations.
But just because you put a wig on and some lipstick, it surely doesn't bar you from being prosecuted for that same
I don't see why it
offence.
should. No. There's also another case going through at the moment in the courts because it's Hampstead Ponds, you know, where they've got, you know, these sort of, they do what they call wild swimming. The ponds have been there for donkey's years since I used to live up there. And, you know, George Michael used to go to the male one, and there's a female one, but there's also a mixed one. But the trans lobby is saying that they need access to the women's one. Instead of just being happy to go to the mixed swimming, they have to go to the women's section. And of course, the women are going, no, we don't want you here. So there's now a court case going through where the people from Sex Matters are actually taking London Corporation, who won't change the rules, to court. And they'll probably win, at which point, hopefully, these idiots at university...
You think about academics, you think about their
mind.
agenda. We've heard about what they're telling students about our history and all sorts of stuff. And now they're flouting completely and utterly what supposedly the most important court in the land is, which makes them a complete non-entity, the Supreme Court, which is what you said about Farage. Disgraceful. And the police will do nothing. And that is systematically what's wrong with this country.
The police would walk in and defend the right of the trans woman to stand there, you know, with his bits out. That's what the police would do.
I took my daughter to Brighton University. She said, don't say a word. So I sat there. Was a bloke on a skateboard with a tutu. Honestly, I'm not even joking. A couple of people walked by that were furries with tails. I've told you this. And I said, I need to go for a wee. And she went, good luck. And I went there. And it literally said, anything goes. It didn't say man or woman. So I had to pee in the car park behind my car. Honestly, it said anything goes on the door.
But that's what's going to happen.
That's why Angela's going to be the MP for down there, isn't it?
But you're right that the so-called feminists, they're not interested in talking about this. And
I don't want to name the person I want to name, but not a word. Not a word. All about women's safety, absolutely. Not a bleeding word when it's a teenage girl being attacked by a migrant or a girl in a toilet with a man with a penis. Not a word from any of them. No. Hypocrites.
And I have no problem if you change your mind, if you were pro-trans, if you were pro-mass migration, and then you started to see the evidence that there are problems and gone, oh, I'm going to change my mind. There was a study out I saw the other day, really interestingly, that shows that people on the left have very, very little variety of opinion amongst them, whereas on the right there is quite a lot of variety. And that is because people on the left, they just follow the herd, they don't look at evidence, they don't think through their opinions, they just go, oh, that's popular, I'll go with that, and I won't dare put my head above the parapet.
Problem, by the way.
But that's
it's not just this, it's Palestine, you've got people who don't even know anything about that place or the war, and they just go, that's cool, I'll just go on a protest. And it's the same with calling people who have concerns about men and women bathrooms TERFs and all of this.
That's why they jump on it. That's why I admire Robert Jenrick. I'm not a Tory fan anymore, but the guy went to the Home Office, saw entirely what a disaster it was, but has been slagged off by a lot of people saying, oh, you changed your mind. I think he actually grew into a position where he understood what was going on.
Absolutely
but let's be clear here. In the NHS and in universities, to cater to this 0.4% of the population who are trans, or less than that, actually, they're going to actually turn...
I think it's 0.04, isn't it?
That's what, 0.4. No, 0.4%. They're going to try to change all of these places into unisex lavatories now. That's going to be the
anything
future.
goes.
I
anything
hate
goes.
unisex lavatories. I've never been sexually assaulted in one, but I hate it because the men make such a mess. They never put the toilet seat down, and they just wee everywhere.
Men's toilets
it's so easy for a woman. You even sit down to
I don't even like men's toilets. That's why I use the women's, to be honest. But there we are. Listen, Laurie, over to you.
Right.
And so this is the one we've all been waiting for.
Yes.
Oh, before you say me, can I say happy birthday to Chloe's mum? What's she called? Oksana?
Roxana.
Roxana.
Put on the red light.
You gotta put on your red light. Anyway, happy birthday.
Did you see the police are all suing each other, by the way?
I know, sorry about that.
I hope you haven't sent her a gift that's appropriate to this segment.
Oh!
Right, let's get to the play.
All right, let's do it.
So, the reason why my mother's been brought up is because I've had to tell all the boys to behave on this one. Because she'll be watching. But anyway, the Suffolk Police, they went and investigated someone's house. It was a family member of a woman was being investigated for drugs. Anyway, so they go into this woman's room, and the police, whilst they're doing their search for drugs, got a little bit excited when they found her underwear drawer and her sex toy collection. And they started getting out all of her sex toys and laughing at them and sniggering them. And then they started throwing her...
This is obviously not the real police.
They started throwing her sexy thongs around at each other and having a dance around on the bed.
What?
Thongs.
Sexy thongs. Underwear, if you don't know.
I didn't know what a thong
yeah.
was.
Oh, really? Okay.
She's greater.
Thongs of Praise. It's on every Sunday night.
Yeah, so,
Thing a thong of sixpence.
but anyway, the police have had to pay out this woman $3.5 grand in compensation for humiliating her by going through her private stuff.
There was a video.
It's on the body cam
where you could
footage.
clearly see
Yeah.
a guy taking a pair of knickers out of the drawer and putting them in his back pocket. What have we got next? We're going to be talking about Richard III again because she's back in the news. And also the BBC. And why not? Just for good old time's sake. This is Plank of the Week.
Live from London, it's Plank of the Week with Mike Graham.
Welcome back to Plank of the Week. Russell Quirk, over to you with Richard III, a.k.a. Rachel Reeves. So there he is.
Hey.
See what I
He
did there?
always comes to
I'm
the
an
moment,
economist.
doesn't he?
I'm an economist. I studied economics.
I'm an economist. I'm an economist.
I studied economics at the London School of Economics, and I studied economics at the London School of Economics. Anyway,
I'm right to have my eyes closed.
Back to Russell. Getting a word in anyway. Yes, so cast your minds back to 1976. It will probably be a year that you know and remember well.
Very,
Jeremy,
very warm. I was 11.
Yeah.
I was trying to get into this country.
I don't
pretend
remember
I was 38.
I don't remember it, just saying other people on the panel might.
certainly
1976
do.
was the year that Dennis Healey, who was the then Chancellor, had to go cap in hand to the IMF, the International Monetary Federation, to say, we are bankrupt. We are bust as a country. Can you lend us, I think it was £50 billion back then, which is an awful lot more money now. Well, it looks like we're on the cusp, thanks to Rachel Reeves, of exactly the same thing now. So we're in a position now from an economic point of view. And by the way, don't believe what you see on the Labour Party social media feed in terms of how great everything's going. Let me just give you a few truths when it comes to our economy. We have lost 200,000 jobs in the UK economy since Labour came to power. Q2 GDP halved.
4 of those
compared
are in
to
the
Q1.
cabinet.
Yes, well, if only there'd be a few more. Inflation is now double what it was when they took over, twice the Bank of England rate. And borrowing now costs us. We borrowed up to £3 trillion so far. That's the government debt. We borrowed £140 billion in the last 12 months. It cost us £111 billion just to service our debt. We spend more on servicing debt now than we spend on education and defence. I kid you not. So add education and defence together, we spend more on servicing debt interest now. So that is the position we are now in, thanks to Rachel Reeves. We are about to have to go to, it seems, the IMF to say, we're done.
Absolutely. And also the other reason why she's a plank is she's hired she's promoted that bloke Torsten Bell.
End,
as I'd like to call him, who is the bloke that came up with the Ed Stone idea for Ed Miliband. Do you remember the big sort of tablet of stone with all these...
So he's the man that's putting the budget together.
Torsten Bell.
He's the guy that's going to be... And he's also the guy who used to work for the Resolution Foundation, and his top tip for making the economy work is just to tax people more and more until they can't afford it.
Is he the one who looks 11?
Yeah. Yes.
So no experience.
Well, that's what I called him. It was a mistake.
I was a mistake there. I meant
to say twit, but it just came out that way.
On a funny note, speaking of Richard III, I went to Shakespeare's Globe Theatre to go watch it, and they had an all-female cast to be woke.
Right.
And so the lady playing Richard III, to show that she was playing a bloke.
Did she look like Rachel Reeves?
Was wearing... No, she didn't. But she was wearing a sparkly jockstrap to show that she was playing a bloke. There are kids here watching. And then she was humping the other characters with her sparkly jockstrap with sparkly diamonds on. It was It was a very strange 3 hours of my life. And I had to stand.
A woman had a sparkly jockstrap and was dry humping. Where did I get that?
Yes.
Somebody else.
He had a hump, didn't he, Richard III?
Other characters.
Just used his shoulder.
Did he have a hump as well or not?
What?
A humpback. Because Richard III had a humpback.
Real life. The real Richard III.
No.
So that would have been disableist.
Yeah, because so that's true historical recollection, isn't it? So it's not only not a bloke, he doesn't have a hump, and he's got a spangly jockstrap.
Basically, a woman, and they've removed the hump from the shoulder and put the hump between her legs.
Yeah,
exactly. It was very.
Let's talk about. Funnily enough, it leads us rather well onto the BBC because they've had that ridiculous show that's been out this week, haven't they? About William the Conqueror. I can't remember what the name of it is, but it's the one everybody's supposedly talking about. They've got a new show out. I know that's not what you're talking about.
That's not what I'm talking about at all. I'm looking at you with a blank in amazement.
I know you're looking at me blankly.
What are you on
It's
about?
all going really well there.
There's a big new historical show that they've done. This big sort of set piece.
Yes,
where they've got Harold and it sounds more like Steptoe and Son. And people have been saying it's not actually historical at all. It's just a drama based on history.
You've
so
got
all the
Norman
facts are wrong.
soldiers, who are black from sub-Saharan Africa,
What's it called? King and Conqueror, there you go.
Has it got trans
Remember the old days?
soldiers
When The Crown was on television, they cast people who looked just like Queen Elizabeth II.
Yes.
Gary Oldman, of course, transformed into Churchill. We could all buy into it. But now you've got black Anne Boleyn, you've got Asian Isaac Newton.
Yes.
I mean, you completely lose...
I know. It's absolutely mad.
Anyway,
you've got the
my
BBC.
topic.
You've got the BBC for a different reason, right?
Yes, so the BBC up to their old antics again, this time in relation to TfL's great campaign to stamp out people who listen to things without headphones on public transport.
Yeah.
But to illustrate this, of course, the BBC have chosen the correct culprits because, when we're on public transport, the thing that we hate the most are those grandfathers blaring out Gardener's Question Time on their telephone and those grandmas listening to Shostakovich.
Right?
So this is the sort of culprit they think is responsible for antisocial behaviour on the tube. I mean, we should be grateful because it's the one time you can get a white man onto an advertising is when you're dealing with antisocial behaviour.
And so this is TfL say they're targeting disruptive behaviour of passengers who play music and make calls out loud. That's not the guy doing it, is it?
Yeah, I mean, if his phone is playing out loud, I might have to put up with listening to Rory Stewart on the rest of Politics. But it's not going to be some
or Radio
I'm not going to feel like
3.
I'm at a music festival.
No. And he's not going to be shouting down the phone.
I think this symbolises the most important thing about this is how appalling public transport is.
Exactly.
Don't go on the tube.
How would you know?
No, but I have occasionally.
He's always on public transport.
You had to go on a bus once the other day, didn't you?
Yeah, it was lovely. The only thing about buses and I don't mind, Mike knows this, but it's this stopping to pick other people up. That, take me to where I want to go.
Yeah. Sit near you and stuff.
Yeah, that's not so good.
Well, there was a duke who took a bus once in the 19th century, and he said, "Yes, 1 to number 6 Chester Square, please."
I love this man. You are a font of all information.
When I worked in Fleet Street, myself and a friend of mine who'd been drinking for quite some time, decided we wanted to go for a curry up in Covent Garden, and we couldn't get a cab for love nor money. There just weren't any. So we saw a bus and we just jumped on it, and it worked out neither of us had any cash. And I actually said to him, "Did you take American Express?"
Have you ever heard Have you ever heard that Victoria Wood brilliant sketch which took me 15 seconds? She said, you can absolutely tell an English bus. She said, I was on one the other day, absolutely rammed, and there's a couple at the back and they're having full sex. And because it's an English bus, nobody says a word. Right. And then when the bloke's finished, he sits up and lights a cigarette, and 3 people jump up and go, I think you'll find this is a non-smoking bus. Typical, right?
Yeah,
that is it.
Absolutely right.
I love that.
Right, now, I'm being told time is up because we've got to move on. And we're nearly at the end already. This is amazing. Coming up, my final nomination, and it's one of our old favourites, plus a special mention for one of my old newspapers. This is Talk.
Live from London, it's Plank of the Week with Mike Graham.
Welcome back to Plank of the Week. We're now in the final furlong where I get to choose who wins. I've also got one more nomination to give you. Before that, we've been doing a special mention. This week's special mention is actually about something that happened last week, much to my surprise and chagrin, it has to be said. A story appeared on the Mirror Online this week. You might remember this clip. What do they do?
Is it just
so that when the dinghy lands,
Jess,
right?
shall we go to the pub?
When the
Jeremy,
I can't do this anymore.
Honestly,
and this was basically you having a laugh and saying, I can't really, I just can't believe this. I can't do this anymore. The Daily Mirror, do you know what they did? They did a headline that said, Jeremy Kyle walks off Talk TV set after heated debate. I can't do this, in quotes. It then says, a debate on Talk TV descended into chaos when Jeremy Kyle walked off after thumping the desk in frustration.
I can't do this.
I know that since I've left,
I've
left the Daily Mirror, things have obviously, standards have dropped quite considerably. I mean, even down the story, they actually admit that you then came back. Yeah. Anyway, listen, we've got to get on because we've only got a couple of minutes left. I'm just going to play you this because I don't really need to say anything else. Have a look.
Come over here, baby.
Called it baby.
We go there. You need to be very careful because they call it spiny lobster for a reason. I mean, listen, at the end of the day...
It's the circle of life.
It's the circle of life. I'm gonna cut the medallions like this in half, you see?
Do you know who doesn't like lobster?
Who?
My husband.
No way. And you marry him?
Yeah, I'm afraid there's a second series. It was all filmed at the same time as the first series. This would appear to be the outtakes from the first series that were too crap to put in the first series.
Series 3 is what, her drowning puppies?
And presumably, it'll have to be that, won't it?
I think the greatest thing about that appalling programme, apart from seeing her them trying to model clay, that very phallic part of the thing was that Taylor Swift announced her engagement right as Meghan Markle
blew it right off the front page.
Nobody gives a toss, love. Seriously. Yeah. Why are we honestly?
No.
The circle of life. Today I'm cutting bread and laying out food. My husband doesn't like lobster. No, he likes you because he's
Even he doesn't make an appearance in this trailer because he made it on the last
I'll tell you where he was. He's the ginger skinny boat paddling Angela Rayner in Bort in Hove.
Speaking of which, I think it may have to be a fairly easy one this week because I think Angela Rayner wins it hands down, don't you think? Angela Rayner in a dinghy.
I'd like to say thank you from Ethiopia for me award.
Maybe she's trying to row herself to Ethiopia to save money on the old carbon targets. But listen, thank you very much indeed, Jeremy Kyle, Chloe Dobbs, Russell Quirk and Rafe Heydel-Mankoo, Angela Rayner, Tory scum, plank of the week. See you next time.